after seeing the Georgia-Alabama game, you feel confident that Tennessee can beat one, both, or neither?
Well, I feel confident it can beat one. I don't know which one. It has a home field advantage against Alabama, and that matters greatly. However, when I watch Georgia, I'm not that high on Georgia right now. I think Tennessee can win in Athens. I think it will win there. Alabama will present more problems, even though it's in Neyland Stadium.
Wow. I agree with that. I think Carson Beck's got a noodle, and I don't think I think he's basically Stetson Bennett with less wheels and a bad attitude. Caleb?
I mean, I agree with you guys about the bad attitude. I don't think Carson Beck's a leader, and I know that's going to be, I think a lot of people don't like hearing that, but I do believe that. But John, so you're saying, and I just want to get you on record on this, you're saying that Alabama at Neyland Stadium in a likely night game will be tougher than Georgia in Athens. Not just Alabama versus Georgia over who's tougher, but Alabama at Neyland Stadium is tougher.
Yeah, I think so. And I kind of thought that before the game. The game itself in Tuscaloosa kind of confirmed what I was thinking, because I think Georgia is its defense is not as good as it has been. It's still a good defense, but offensively, where are the playmakers? Who can you really count on to make the big plays? I look at Alabama, and I think against Tennessee's defense, we've been talking about Tennessee's defense. I think you got to be able to make some plays. You got to be able to go off script and make some plays. Jalen Milroe can do that about as well as anybody. And Ryan Williams is a star already. He's just an instant star as a 17-year-old freshman. I don't see a Ryan Williams for Georgia. Their receiving core, it doesn't have a Ladd McConkey from last year. It doesn't have a Brock Bowers, obviously, at tight end. I just think it's kind of limited into what it can do. Now, maybe its running game will get better, but right now its running game is not that good. I don't see how it beats Tennessee.
Okay, so then I got to push back on this because everybody's, again, Alabama needed a late touchdown to win after leading 20-0. If these issues are persisting, then how would you say Georgia even got back in that game? Because they were down 28-0 and they came back and they took the lead.
Yeah, I'm not as down on Carson Beck as you are. I think he's one of the most accurate college passers I've seen. He had a really bad opening act. He wasn't very effective, but he shook that off. And once Georgia got in a situation where he just had to throw the ball, he really got in rhythm. And Alabama's secondary got exposed. You think Alabama always has good athletes back there, but it really got exposed in that second half. However, I've seen games like this when a team jumps out to a commanding lead in a big game, and it's kind of like, what do we do now? It's 28-0. The game's just starting. It's 28-0. I think you lose your edge, and I think that contributed in my mind. That contributed to Georgia's comeback. But I thought it was more telling. Why did Georgia? It's okay. It made defensive adjustments, but once Alabama got behind for that very brief period, boom, it goes right down and scores a touchdown. That kind of made me think, well, it didn't consciously back off or play that conservatively, but I just thought it lost its edge. It's like, we've got this game. We just got to play it out and go ahead and win it. So I just I wasn't wowed by Georgia's comeback, I guess is my point.
John, I'll go ahead and tell you that I think Alabama's a significantly better team. Maybe they took their foot off the gas because they have an elite quarterback, and no matter what system he's playing in. And getting back to, listen, I watched the game as you did, and I felt like Carson Beck was more of a hindrance than a help. I think that Stetson Bennett, who is somewhat underrated, could have done all those things. I thought the deep pass was underthrown. He didn't put loft on the ball in the interception that ended the game. I think they've got a quarterback issue, and I think that's going to show up later in the year. I think he's overrated. I just was, and Caleb, I don't. We talked about this yesterday. You might disagree with me as well, but I'm going to stand on this until I'm proven otherwise. I think they've got a quarterback issue.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I disagree too. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the country. I say he's still a first-round draft pick. When NFL scouts look at his accuracy, you brought up a couple of passes that he was good on, but play in and play out, Carson Beck's very accurate. He can throw it into a tight window, and I think that's why NFL likes him. But there are things about he's not what Stetson Bennett was, but Stetson Bennett was extremely underrated, and he had that unique quality to lift a team and raise his game in the clutch. He just had the Tom Brady-like quality. He did that. So Carson Beck doesn't have that. I kind of think Jalen Milroe has some of that. And I think we're seeing it more. We'll see it more with Kalen DeBoer than we did with Nick Saban. I think he likes playing for DeBoer more than he liked playing for Nick Saban. Now,
I do want to be clear. I think that Georgia can overcome Carson Beck and win a championship. I'm not saying he's that bad, but I don't see him being great.
What kind of help does he have, though? His offensive line couldn't block Alabama's defensive front. It couldn't run the ball on Alabama. So then who does he have that's an elite playmaker at receiver?
Oh, fair enough.
I don't see where he has any help.
Guys, can we say a difference between Stetson and Bennett? I mean, Stetson and Beck, too, is Stetson Bennett had Todd Monken calling plays for him, and Carson Beck has Mike Bobo calling plays. I think that's a big drop-off at offensive coordinator.
Well, I think Todd Monken's one of the best play callers around. So,
yeah,
I don't think Bobo's a bad play caller. He called plays pretty well in that second. I just think Georgia is limited personnel-wise. I mean, I look at okay, just take Tennessee for an example. Okay, who on of Georgia's receivers and running backs? I know Etienne's a good running back, but we haven't really seen it behind this offensive line. But I would take Dylan Sampson over Etienne as a running back. And I would certainly take Tennessee's wide receivers over Georgia's. So
okay, let me ask. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm just saying that to me, we aren't accustomed to seeing this. But it's not like Georgia's shuffling in 3 and 4 elite running backs like it has on some of its better teams. But to me, the more troubling aspect of the offense is the fact that Georgia couldn't block Kentucky and it couldn't block Alabama.
Okay, let me ask you guys this. How many SEC quarterbacks would you take over Carson Beck after a quick message from Medicare Misty?
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, so I've got 6 quarterbacks I would take over Carson Beck that are playing in the SEC. 2 are at Texas: Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Nico Iamaleava. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd take Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. I've got him at best 5th. Do you guys disagree with that?
Well, the thing is, the SEC is loaded with outstanding quarterbacks. I've never seen the league this strong at that position. Do you not think Carson Beck will be a first-round draft pick, Dave?
Oh, man. I think that either something
the fact
is
you're
wrong
even
with his,
thinking about what?
I think either something is
You
wrong
had-
with his shoulder, or he got drove into the ground at Clemson. I think either something is wrong with his shoulder or he lacks arm strength.
Well, I
So if
never
it's
thought he lacked arm strength. So maybe the shoulder is an issue. It's been bothering him. We don't know how much. It's impossible to discern that. But I mean, I still think of the guy as a first round draft pick. What do you say, Caleb? Do you think he's a first round draft pick?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he's first round draft pick. I thought he played well in the second half of that game.
guys,
Flip,
the deep ball was way underthrown, and then he threw the interception that cost him the game. What are we talking about?
We let him up and down the field, one touchdown after another in that
And
second
they're
half.
playing soft coverage. I feel
I
like
gotta-
crazy pills.
I gotta push back on both you guys though too on that, particularly you, John, when you say like, okay, if you're questioning Alabama's secondary a little bit, which I'm kind of with you on, this is why I think Tennessee has a better chance of beating Alabama than Georgia. Because if Alabama's secondary is questionable and you think Tennessee's got better receivers than Georgia, which I do, and I think we all think Nico Iamaleava is a better quarterback than Carson Beck at the moment, then Nico Iamaleava should torch that Alabama secondary. Should absolutely light them up. And I'm not so sure that I don't think Tennessee can light up Georgia the way they could light up Alabama's defense. I'll just say that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, Alabama's pass coverage. Honestly, it looked like Alabama's secondary 2 years ago when it had was full of future NFL players and draft picks, and Tennessee scored 52 points on it, and Jalen Hyatt was never covered in the entire game. So
you could see that again.
Well, I mean, then if you can't, I don't think Georgia can score with Alabama, though. Against Tennessee, I would be more concerned about Alabama's offense than I would Georgia's offense from a Tennessee perspective. So, I mean, maybe I'm not saying Tennessee's going to lose to Alabama. I'm just saying if I had to pick one,